All right, ready to dive deep into Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Always.
This time we're looking at Chapter 8.
The Potions Master.
Ooh, that title already makes you wonder, right? What's so special about this Potions Master? We're going to help you with a novel study of this chapter.
It's amazing how much this chapter shows about Harry's journey. It's not just about learning spells. He's still figuring out life at Hogwarts, those moving staircases, trying not to get caught by Filch and Mrs. Norris.
Right, always lurking. Those two.
Like they're trying to keep all the magic hidden. But Harry's really starting to get a feel for this world where anything's possible.
A world where portraits talk, and ghosts just wander the halls. Even Peeves, that mischievous poltergeist, he adds to the magic, doesn't he?
Hogwarts isn't just a school. It's like it's alive, full of its own unique magic.
Okay, so imagine you're walking those halls with Harry. It's his first week of classes, and he's got a packed schedule. Astronomy at midnight.
How cool is that?
Then there's herbology with Professor Sprout. She seems a bit, well, how does Rowling put it? Dumpy. But she definitely knows her stuff when it comes to plants and fungi.
And don't forget, history of magic. Taught by a ghost, Professor Binns. Ugh, I wonder if you could stay awake in his class.
I doubt it. And then there's charms.
Professor Flitwick, he's so tiny but so full of energy, he takes a liking to Harry right away.
Oh, and of course you can't forget transfiguration.
With Professor McGonagall, she's definitely not someone you want to cross.
Remember that scene where she transforms her desk into a pig?
Talk about making a first impression.
Rowling is just brilliant at bringing these teachers to life with just these little details. Each class feels so unique, giving you a sense of all the different kinds of magic Harry's starting to discover.
But then we get to a class that's, well, a bit more mysterious. Defense Against the Dark Arts.
Taught by the one and only Professor Quirrell.
With his garlic-infused classroom. And that strange turban he wears. He says an African prince gave it to him for fighting a zombie.
Do you think the Weasley twins are right? Is he hiding something under there?
Maybe. It definitely adds to the mystery of his character. But the real turning point in this chapter, the moment where things really get going, is Harry's first potions class.
With Snape.
Yeah. The second Harry steps into that dungeon classroom, you can feel the tension. Dimly lit, creepy atmosphere. Snape's just, well, chilling.
And remember how he greets Harry? Our new celebrity.
So much sarcasm and resentment in those few words. It sets the stage for their whole complicated relationship.
Snape clearly has it out for Harry. He asks him all these questions about potion ingredients, knowing Harry's never even touched a cauldron before.
Right.
It's like he enjoys humiliating Harry in front of everyone.
It's interesting, though, right? Because in his opening speech, Snape talks about potion making as this delicate art, this subtle science. But his own actions, not subtle at all. He's aggressive, bitter. It doesn't really match the beauty he's describing.
It makes you wonder, what's driving all that animosity? Is it just because Harry's famous? Or is there something deeper going on, something more personal?
That's a question we'll keep exploring as we go deeper into the story. But for now, it's safe to say Snape's behavior raises a lot of questions. What do you make of it? Does it seem fair to you? Or do you think there's something else going on?
And it's not just Harry. Look at how he treats Neville Longbottom when he melts his cauldron. Snape takes points from Gryffindor without a second thought. But Malfoy, he praises him, even though his work's not that great. Snape clearly plays favorites.
Definitely. And that favoritism toward Malfoy, it adds another layer to Snape's character, Like maybe his dislike of Harry is tied to some prejudice or resentment from his own past. But enough about all that tension. Let's follow Harry and Ron as they go visit Hagrid.
Ah, such a nice change of pace.
And what a contrast. Hagrid's hut, it's so different from those dungeons. Imagine, warm smells of baking, a fire crackling, hams and pheasants hanging from the ceiling, a copper kettle bubbling away. And of course, Fang, the boarhound, lumbering around.
Cozy and welcoming. Completely the opposite of Snape's classroom.
And Hagrid himself. He might seem gruff and intimidating at first, but he's got a good heart, especially when it comes to Harry. He listens to Harry, offers him some rock cakes, tries to reassure him about Snape. Even if he does, avoid making eye contact while he's doing it.
It's like Hagrid knows more than he's letting on. Especially when Harry finds that newspaper clipping about the Gringotts break-in.
It happened the same day Harry went to the bank with Hagrid, remember?
And the article mentions the vault being emptied earlier that day. Do you think that's just a coincidence?
Rowling doesn't include details like that by accident. Remember that mysterious package Hagrid got from Gringotts, the one he was so secretive about?
It's starting to look like that break-in might be connected to that package. Like Hagrid might be holding back some important information.
Definitely makes you think. What was in that package? Why is Hagrid being so evasive? And how does all of this tie into Harry's past, his future? It's like we've stumbled onto this hidden plot and we're just starting to unravel it. What do you think about that connection? Hogwarts, it really feels so real, doesn't it? You can practically smell the pumpkin pasties and hear the echoes of, like, spells being cast in those old halls.
It's all in the details, right? Rowling doesn't just say it's magical, she shows you.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah,
those
yeah.
142 staircases, each one with its own, quirks and surprises, and the talking portraits gossiping about everything that happens.
Every corner you turn, there's something magical. It's more than just a building. Hogwarts is like a character itself.
Totally.
Speaking of characters, let's get back to those classes. Each one shows you a different part of the wizarding world, right? Practical, theoretical, whimsical, dangerous.
It's like a crash course in everything a young witch or wizard needs to know.
What really stands out to you about those classes?
It's interesting how each subject, each professor, shows a different side of magic. And you can see how they'd appeal to different kinds of learners.
Oh, I like that.
Like Professor Sprout with her magical plans.
Herbology.
Yeah, for those who connect with nature, maybe? Then you've got Professor Flitwick, so excited about charms.
The more playful side of magic.
Right. And then Professor Binns droning on and on about history of magic.
Maybe he's there to remind us that some subjects are just boring, even in a world of magic.
Maybe. But then you've got these classes that are full of mystery, like Defense Against the Dark Arts with Professor Quirrell.
And of course, potions with Snape.
Snape. He's a character that people are still fascinated by him.
Even after all these years.
I know. On the surface, he's this strict, intimidating figure, seems to love making Harry's life miserable. But I think there's so much more going on under the surface.
Yeah, he's not your typical villain, that's for sure.
Right. There's a depth to him, a hidden pain that makes you wonder what happened to make him so bitter.
Do you have any theories about what makes Snape tick?
Well, if you look closely at how Rowling writes him, you notice she drops these little hints about his past. Remember that line he says, "Our new celebrity"? Like he spits it out.
He does.
It's as if he resents Harry's fame, maybe sees it as undeserved, or like a reminder of something he's lost.
Interesting. And he's particularly harsh on Harry, isn't he? Those impossible questions about potions ingredients, making him look stupid in front of the whole class.
Do you think he's just trying to, put Harry in his place? Or is there more to it?
It feels like more.
It's like there's a personal edge to it, right?
Yeah.
Something that goes beyond just wanting to keep order in the classroom.
Right.
It's like he sees a part of himself, or maybe someone he knew, in Harry. And it brings up all these complicated emotions, envy, resentment, maybe even a messed up kind of protectiveness.
Wow, that's a really interesting way to look at it. Makes you wonder about Snape's backstory, doesn't it? His relationships with Harry's parents, maybe some secrets they shared.
Yeah. Could he be hiding something about Harry's past? It's possible. Remember, we're only in chapter 8. And Rowling, she's a master at weaving together plots, revealing information slowly, like putting a puzzle together, and each time we see Snape, we get another piece.
That's a great analogy. So what do you think? Is Snape just a villain? Or is there more to him than we see at first?
I definitely think there's more to him. He's too complex, too layered to be just a bad guy. And those layers, that's what makes him so fascinating. He's like a walking mystery waiting for us to figure him out.
Speaking of mysteries, what about Hagrid? He's keeping secrets too, isn't he?
Oh, for sure. That whole scene with the newspaper clipping about the Gringotts break-in, so much suspense.
The way Hagrid avoids eye contact with Harry, the way he changes the subject.
Offering him another rock cake like it's nothing. Very suspicious.
It's like suddenly everyone's looking at Hagrid with suspicion. Makes you wonder, is he as trustworthy as he seems?
Is he trying to protect Harry by keeping secrets? Or is he mixed up in something dangerous that could hurt Harry? What do you think?
Tough question. We know he cares about Harry, but he can also be a bit, impulsive.
Yeah.
Maybe he made some mistakes or someone tricked him and now is in too deep.
Could be. But we also have to remember, Hagrid's a half-giant. And giants, they're often seen as strong, loyal, connected to nature.
Right.
Maybe there's more to his actions than we realize. Maybe what seems suspicious is actually coming from a good place.
That's a good point. It reminds us that judging characters just by what they do can be misleading. There might be deeper reasons, and it's up to us as readers to think about all the possibilities before deciding what we think.
Exactly.
And I'm sure as we keep reading, we'll find more clues about Hagrid's true intentions.
Definitely.
It's amazing how Rowling, even in a world of magic, she shows us that things aren't always black and white.
Right.
Every character has shades of gray, and sometimes it's hard to tell who's good and who's bad.
I know.
But that complexity, that's what makes the characters feel so real. Like actual people, even though they're witches and wizards.
Exactly, and that's what makes this chapter so interesting. It's not just about learning spells and potions. It's about Harry dealing with a world where things aren't what they seem, where trust is hard to earn, where even people close to you might be hiding things.
It makes you realize, in books and in real life,
Duh.
it's important to look deeper. Think about why people do what they do. There's always more to the story than what you see on the surface.
It's a good reminder to think critically, to question what you see and hear, to consider different perspectives before judging.
Absolutely.
And Rowling does that so well throughout the whole Harry Potter series. That's why it still connects with so many people.
Love that. It makes you appreciate how deep and complex Rowling's writing is, even in a chapter that seems like it's just about Hogwarts classes. Before we move on to other stuff in this chapter, I'm curious, what surprised you the most? What really stuck with you from this part of our deep dive?
You know, it's funny how even a scene like Harry and Ron visiting Hagrid, it can be so full of meaning, like a break from all the tension at Hogwarts. But it also adds to the mystery about Hagrid and that Gringotts break-in.
It is kind of like the calm before the storm, isn't it?
Yeah.
They go from Snape's dungeon, all dark and gloomy, to Hagrid's hut, all warm and cozy.
Right. But even there, those shadows are still lurking.
Definitely.
Think about how different those two places are. Snape's classroom, it's cold, all about rules and control. But Hagrid's hut, it's full of life, warmth, feels free, almost like they represent those two sides of magic that Harry's dealing with. Snape, all strict and authoritarian. Hagrid, more nurturing, going with his gut. What do you think about that?
I like that comparison. And it makes you realize how important Hagrid is to Harry. He's not just the groundskeeper, he's a friend. Someone Harry can trust, someone who helps him, guides him. This world must feel so overwhelming sometimes for Harry, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
It's like Hagrid's this bridge between the magical world and the regular world. He understands both, and he helps Harry figure out who he is in all of this.
And Hagrid's hut itself, it's almost like its own character in this scene, all cozy and cluttered, smelling like baking, with Fang the boarhound stomping around. It's a place where Harry can relax, be himself, and feel like he belongs.
It is. Such a contrast to Hogwarts, all grand and formal. You can picture it, can't you? Curled up by the fire with a cup of tea, feeling safe and looked after.
Totally.
But then, bam! That newspaper clipping about Gringotts. Suddenly, everything feels a bit less safe.
Yeah, that clipping changes everything. It connects Hagrid to what happened at Gringotts. Makes you wonder, what's his role in all of this? What's he hiding?
The way he won't look Harry in the eye when they talk about it, and then tries to distract him with another rock cake.
It's super suspicious.
This cloud of suspicion hanging over him. Is he trying to protect Harry? Or is he caught up in something that could put Harry in danger? What do you think?
That's a tough one. We know Hagrid cares about Harry, but he can also be a bit reckless, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he messed up or someone tricked him, and now things are out of control.
Possibly.
But also, Hagrid's a half-giant. Giants are supposed to be strong, loyal, connected to nature. Maybe what seems like bad choices, maybe they're actually coming from a good place.
Interesting. It shows how we can't just judge characters by what they do.
Yeah.
Right? There might be other reasons behind their actions. We have to keep an open mind.
Exactly. And as we keep reading, I'm sure we'll discover more about what Hagrid's really up to.
I hope so.
One thing that makes Harry Potter so great, you never know who to trust.
Right.
People who seem good might do bad things, and people who seem scary might surprise you.
It's a world where you can't take anything for granted.
Definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Chapter 8, what are the big takeaways for our listeners? What should they keep in mind as they keep reading?
I think the biggest thing is that where a scene takes place, it really affects how we see the characters and why they do what they do. Like Snape's dungeon versus Hagrid's hut. It's such a great example of how Rowling uses setting to create a mood, build suspense, even hint at what might happen later.
Makes sense. What else?
Characters are complicated. Look at Hagrid. He's caring but reckless, loyal but secretive. The things he does might seem like they don't make sense, but it all comes from that deep need to protect Harry. Even if it means not telling him everything.
Right. Even if it means keeping secrets.
Exactly. And one last thing. Don't believe everything you see. In the world of Harry Potter, things are rarely what they seem. You gotta think for yourself, question what you see and hear, and accept that people, even with magic, they're messy and complicated.
That's such a great point. It's not just a magical adventure, it's about life, too.
I know, right?
Well, that's our deep dive into Chapter 8. This chapter is packed with symbolism, foreshadowing, things that'll keep coming back throughout the series. It's worth reading again and again. Each time, you'll discover something new.
I bet you will. I hope this deep dive helped you understand it all a little better, appreciate how amazing Rowling's writing is.
Thanks for joining us. Keep exploring the world of Harry Potter. You never know what magic you'll find in the next chapter.